Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan. I've been trading cannabis stocks for the last 13 years. In this video, we're going to check in on the sector as well as some psychedelic names after a oversold bounce right near all-time lows. Bulls getting a little hopeful again. We'll see what we need for things to really shift as there is some bullish sentiment returning to the broader market. So if you're looking for what to look for to correlate with the broader market with these sectors, it is, in my opinion, IWM or ARKK. These two sectors show us growth names, which are high risk, high reward, and aside from cannabis and psychedelics, one of the highest risk, high reward sectors in the market. And we can see that IWM had a weak bounce that turned into a very strong bounce after the FOMC reaction on Wednesday. So a complete shift, and right now, there's a short squeeze going on in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ with the gaps and the absolute bull control. And so some bullish sentiment returning this week. That's an understatement. And so that's the context of now looking at the rest of these charts, knowing that's the backdrop of what's going on. And you've got MSOS, the bounce that currently is underway. It started, we had our first big green day, October 31st, and you go to IWM, and it had its first green day, not a big one, but October 31st. So 4 days of bounce, 4 days of bounce. And I know a lot of people were looking at this big green day on Tuesday and saying, what's going on? What fund was having to close positions? Does someone know inside info? Just know that for us as full-time technical traders, we look at this chart and there's nothing unusual going on whatsoever. We were extremely oversold into the only support level that the entire world that pays attention to this sector was watching. Look at this support zone where we bounced off of the upper section of this support zone a ton, just above 5, and then the lower section was 478. And so we dipped right down into it, and the daily RSI was down at 23. Go back and look and say, okay, we dropped down to 23 back here and bounced. This was 23 and we bounced. It can definitely get lower. We got down to 20 or 17 and then bounced. But we know we can look back at the history of the RSI and say that more often than not, the daily RSI is approaching a bounce when we are at 23 and under. We also had the 4-hour RSI at that point in time dipping down into the teens. Again, same thing. Go back and look. What happens when the 4-hour RSI of MSOS dips into the teens? It precedes a bounce. You just get extreme. Everybody was short. Every long that was going to sell had already done so. And you just get a capitulation bottom that leads to a bounce. And so I know some full-time traders in our chat room that were buying the break of $5 and playing that bounce. And I did a little bit as well, but definitely sold a bit early. I was taking my 6% from just under $5 to $5.40. I'm very pleased with that and selling partial along the way. But anyways, again, I just want to highlight, I know a lot of you are fundamental minded. And so you see this action, you say, why? Why is this happening? But the bounce, in my opinion, purely technical. So now what? Well, we got daily EMA 12 resistance. Bulls would have preferred a stronger day today because, again, I'm looking around at the market. I mean, the biotech sector has been absolutely smashed. It's turning around. The solar sector has been smashed, and it's finally turning things around. And so, yes, MSOS has been bouncing the last few days, but today is very low volume. It's not convincing, and we're holding on. I mean, we can, considering what's been going on, we can walk away with a win in that regard. But look at the retracement. What do we need? We know we need a daily uptrend. So we need to top out, we need to hold the low and confirm a higher high to show us that there is a demand exceeding supply. And we have not confirmed a daily uptrend pretty much since we topped out. So that would show us something is different. And then we look at our retracement size on the bounce and say, okay, we want 50% plus bounce retracement to then be really confident that we have the space for that daily trend change attempt. But right now, this bounce retracement is 382, which is still a possible bear flag. There is a bear flag on the table right now. And as long as daily EMA 12 is resistance, that remains a possibility. I'm not going to say that's the most likely scenario, but I'm prepared that it is a possible scenario. And so I know that bears are going to be scouting atop of this bounce. This is what we call stair steps. If you Google ChartGuys stair steps, there's a whole video on it. But it's a lower high every single day, 8 days in a row. That breaks. Now it's a higher low every single day, 4 days in a row. How long can bulls keep that going? When we break it, daily lower high set, and we try and hold the recent low. I know there's a lot of rumors flying around in terms of, oh, we might get this news from the DEA sooner than anticipated. That may be the case. I always take anything like that with a grain of salt, and I don't let it influence my decisions, because anybody that's been listening to those kinds of rumors over the last 6-12 months has been very disappointed that they did so. So I'm not saying it's wrong or not going to happen. I'm just saying that my mindset is, well, we had news come out, and there was still tons of opportunity to get long to ride that momentum. So I know personally, I'm sitting at the computer all day trading as a full-time trader. I know most of you are not doing that. But my mindset is, if that news is going to drop, I'm going to know and be able to act on it within probably 5 minutes, worst case, a couple hours. And so that's what's keeping me patient. I don't care if I miss the bottom. If the news headline drops and we shoot up 10% and we're halting, that's the price that I pay to get into that momentum a bit off the bottom, to not sit through any of this drawdown. And again, just in hindsight, have to fully admit that this candle very much caught me by surprise. And I was going over how I was, going long into this, and I had an average of $7, and I did sell some into this bounce, and then I stopped out break even. And I expected that we would have seen more follow through here. That big bear day, which then set the tone for the dump, caught me by surprise. And I was wrong with what I thought was most likely. But the key is I was wrong and didn't lose $1 because of my positioning and because of my experience anticipating that I'm wrong all the time as a trader. And if I sell partial positions when I'm temporarily right, I can then, it's much more forgiving to be wrong after that point in time. And so my game plan for MSOS is continuing to observe, ready to act and market buy if we get a DEA headline. But other than that, there are just so many other stronger things out there in the markets right now that's where my focus is. And again, it's definitely a solid hold of the all-time low, but it's just one step. Now the next step is the daily uptrend. Then what do we need? Then we need a weekly bounce and a weekly uptrend. So we know the sector is very news dependent, and we'll see if, we're running here into the close a bit. So we'll see if this can be a sentiment shift in the broader market that is enough to take the bear's paws off the bull's throat in this sector, which has been permanently positioned there for the last month plus. But we are closing it near the high of the day, so that's a good sign. And bulls want to clear $6. Then we're looking at $6.44 as resistance. Again, just a short-term goal, get that 50% retracement. And that's closer up to $6.30 with where we stand right now. GTBIF, just an example again of one of the stronger names. We go to GTBIF divided by MSOS, and it's the strongest it's been compared to MSOS in its history. Clearly, the lead bull in the space. And what do the other names look like? Cureleaf divided by MSOS. Not close to its highs, but still one of the stronger names. TCNNF, clearly one of the weaker names, trying to shift that. And CRLBF, also clearly one of the weaker names. Almost at the weakest it's ever been. So GTBIF consistently at the strongest it's been compared to MSOS for a while, and CRLBF consistently at the weakest it's been for a while. We have earnings coming up in the sector. And so that's, I'm not the fundamental guy. There's plenty of other good channels out there, Dale's Report and whoever else, to go over the fundamentals as they come out. Definitely going to have an impact in the short term. But again, me, I'm just sticking with the charts. Can we confirm a daily uptrend when we top out on this bounce? Canadian name CGC did break the daily lower highs today for the first time since we topped out. So that's something. But upper wick of profit taking, there is space for a daily higher low. This is an uptrend. So here's your uptrend of a bounce to a lower high, hold the low, break the high. And so on the next pullback, anything above 50 cents is a daily higher low. But we just have to keep reminding ourselves there's tons of space for a weekly lower high. And again, if we're going to see money pour into this sector, we got to see a news catalyst as to the reasoning for that, in my opinion. TLRY, a little bit of a bounce, also breaking the lower highs. Same thing, we have to confirm a daily uptrend here. We have not done so yet. Stair-step drop on the weekly, lower high every week for 7 weeks. That did break bull. Next question, can we confirm the daily uptrend? This EMA 12 on the daily was resistance forever. Can it start acting as support? Psychedelic names. So again, putting in a bottom with IWM to the day. And it's a nice bounce from all-time lows on CMPS. And again, I never want to try and catch a falling knife. It's something that's at all-time lows and the weakest you can possibly be. The weekly bounce is underway, and we will need to confirm a daily uptrend. Again, for me, this is all IWM, and this is IWM convincing shorts to cover and convincing very aggressive bulls to go long. And so I need, bounce retracement size on the weekly for CMPS. We look at still a lot of work to do to try and create the space for a weekly trend change attempt. If you Google ChartGuys Fibonacci's, it goes into a lot about the retracement size and how I use them to determine if something's a flag or not. So check that out if you want more info on how I use those. But we got earnings reactions out of CMPS and MNMD. MNMD, big bull move here, nice volume. Again, it's just putting in a low. Is this the low? Are we about to set the all-time low for the next decade? Well, actually, I take that back. It wasn't the all-time low. We held 212. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a nice bounce. Supply outweighed demand for a month plus. The scales finally tilt, as they always eventually do. It's a nice bounce. We have to confirm the daily uptrend when it tops out. Then we have to confirm a weekly uptrend when that bounce tops out. So again, it's one time frame at a time, but a nice relief bounce and a quick move. 2 green days getting back a couple weeks of bear control is always a good thing. So we'll see if the bulls can keep up this momentum. And again, it's the biotech sector as well. I don't really notice as much, it's IWM and the biotech sector are correlated for sure, but I notice the biotech sector has more of an impact on psychedelics than cannabis. And maybe that's just a bias, but I feel like that's been my observation as I watch it all. And again, the biotech sector just finally, after full bear control for months, finally putting in a bottom into a meaningful bounce. CYBN, so trying to set a daily higher low, bulls want to hold 544 here. And these inside bars and declining volume tells us volatility is coming probably on Monday when we break these levels. And we're closing on the weaker side here, so maybe going to test 544 on Monday. Bulls would have to break 605 to set that daily higher low. Overall, it's clearly the strongest psychedelic name just by where it stands compared to its recent lows, but need to set that daily higher low and not give back too much of this move. And there's been some headlines in CYBN for those following along on the fundamental side. But again, for me, right now, the bounce in psychedelics and cannabis this week is all market related, algo related, correlation related, and we're still watching for some kind of big meaningful headline in the cannabis space to get everybody back interested again, to get the shorts to cover, and burden still on bulls. Make them prove it. Definitely gonna market buy if we get that headline from the DEA. But again, I'm not sold that it's coming this month. It's, as far as I'm concerned, 50-50. Any time in the next 4 months, 50-50. And well, I don't know what I'm saying. You get my idea. I'm not playing for the possibility we get news. I will gladly buy after that news and ride up double-digit percentage gains into that momentum. Feel free to ask any questions. As always, I hope you have a great weekend. CYBN might close strong. Looks like, what in the world? Oh, that's the close right now. Okay. I don't know what's up with that candle. We didn't close up there. Weird. See you soon.